Could you tell me what are the different levels of dialogue between Rodin and Arp?
Actually, and that's an interesting aspect, it's that this dialogue works really on different levels. You have formal analogies between Rodin and Arp, you have analogies on regarding the content of certain works, of the topic, the general topic. Then you have also correspondences on a more conceptual level. So, for instance, the topic of the fragmentation, which is important to both artists, or other aspects.
What is
also.
the fragmentation?
The fragmentation is this idea of basically dissecting the body, the sculpture, so taking away the arm, so the head. And that is really a principle, an artistic principle that is founded on Rodin, you can say, and which then became also essential to Jean Arp, who in the same time reinterpreted certain ideas of Rodin.
It's focusing on details and making details being the main subjects.
Details, of course, are much more present in certain sculptures of Rodin. Arp, in his tendency of abstraction, of reduction in a way, also renounces on certain details. So he is very much also on search of the quintessence of the shape to a certain extent. But you can really also trace it back to Rodin's ideas to a certain extent.
But so what is the fragmentation in Arp?
The fragmentation in Arp is first also a dissection. In the other hand, then, and that is also a difference to Rodin, Arp reworks these fragments, these torsos, in a way that at the end you have a completely perfect, completely figure. So it's in a way it's a contradiction. Arp is many works are based on this concept, but then let's say based on this topic, he transforms the sculpture in such a way that then it's a perfect, complete figure. You also see it in his concept of the surface, namely Rodin very often celebrates the open surface. He scratches the surface, so it's really disintegrated surface in a certain extent. And Arp makes actually the opposite. A characteristic point of view of the aesthetic of Arp is this perfectly polished surface.
Yes, but we were speaking about common language, right? So what are the common topics of the two guys?
Actually, there are a lot of common topics. For instance, there is this interest for the shadow, the shadow as a sculptural figure in a way. So you find different shadow figures in the oeuvre of Rodin, namely also in his famous Gate of Hell, where at the top he places the three shadows. And later in Arp's work you find this topic very often in the early work, but also in late works. He calls them really the shadow figures. So it's really a common interest to reflect in a sculptural way about the possibilities of putting something flat, like a shadow, which basically is flat, into a three-dimensional body.
But the more obvious in this exhibition is the expression of movement.
Absolutely.
Both of them. And if we could introduce a third character, we would put Brancusi between the two of them. What do you think about it?
Yeah, movement is really quintessential to Rodin, who always actually emphasizes the importance of this concept, and then also becomes absolutely important for Arp, who tries also to interpret movement as transformation. So very often, and that's also something that you observe in Rodin's work, but the concept of metamorphosis is really absolutely quintessential for Hans Arp, who actually conceives the shapes of his sculptures in a way that you have really the impression that they are in a state of permanent transformation. Also according to the point of view of the viewer, if you move around a sculpture, you you see, you discover
Another shape.
absolutely different shapes, and like it's a real transformation of the same body.
And it happens also in this work of the hand with something in it. In Rodin work, there's a big hand.
Yes, absolutely. Rodin also, in his interest for movement, is also interested in metamorphosis. So, and also in the act of creation itself. So, the process of work and of development of a figure, of a sculpture, of a body, actually, is something that is really important for Rodin, and also for Arp, then, who is very much interested in this topic of the growth. So also the process of development, and also in this. Arp develops this typical and very characteristic aesthetic of the biomorphic or also organic abstraction.